Hey, good morning, everyone. What's going on? How come my screen share is not showing the way I expected? 1 second, guys. Let's try this one more time. All right. We got exciting morning with lots of information. There we go. Okay. So, wow, lots and lots to talk about. Wow. Where do we start? Well, my watch list is not as organized as usual because there's so much going on this morning, but we got to start with the Qs. Look at this. We've been talking about for a long time that the Qs can hit the 200 DMA if it breaks the 50. There it is, 369. Well, now what does it do? I don't know. Could it pull back? Could this be a buy the rumor, sell the news event on Russia softening up? This morning, you saw the news there. Things are going in the right direction. I think the market may have anticipated that because Russia, by all counts, they were really kind of losing this, holistically speaking, last several weeks. But man, that is kind of a nice chart. And look at the RSI. RSI 63. It's not as oversold. It's not as overbought as other areas on the chart when it gets overbought. On a weekly chart, you can see it still looks a little bit oversold. Can it go higher? I know macroeconomically, a lot of people are like, how the hell can that happen? But I'm not fighting the charts. I'm not shorting yet here. I guess you could take a chance if you wanted to buy some puts at 369. Now, yesterday I talked about there was a pullback in Apple here. See that? It ended up going green. But there was a pullback here, and I'm like, all right, let me enter some puts in case this is now going to get down to the 50 DMA. And I cut my losses quickly when I realized I was wrong. And I think same with PSQ because I also added PSQ because if Apple goes down, PSQ goes down. So that didn't transpire. I limited my losses. I'm not short this market at all. And got to be honest with you, I'm not sure that I'm going to short it this morning here at 369. Where it looks like we may gap right above that 200 DMA this morning. Yeah, I'm not going to fight the technicals. And for those of you looking for a reason to understand how the hell could this be happening, I think macroeconomically the only explanation would be inflation, right? That yes, short term there could be some issues, but long term people are expecting massive inflation, which means all asset prices are going to go up. So that could be what's happening, which is why I'm not going to decrease my gold position. So gold has been disappointing. It's been down for geopolitical reasons, down to the 50 DMA as people started seeing signs that Russia could concede a little bit. And we had mentioned that yesterday, I think both in the talk this morning, that all the new FANG stocks were not doing well yesterday morning. And in the chat, I believe, I think I had mentioned I had significantly pared down a lot of my new FANG positions, including Mosaic. I sold like 75% of it. I sold all of my ANDE. I sold my XLE yesterday in anticipation of this kind of happening. I still have more exposure than I would want if this is going to go the wrong way against me. But that's why you diversify. That's why at the very max, my position in these new FANGs, which are the Russia plays, were probably about 20-25% of my portfolio. And now it's probably about 5 to 10%. So I'm in a good position today to benefit from what we're seeing in the market. So that's what's going on with the Qs. The SPYs have already been well above the 200 DMA. So I am not fighting this market. Okay. That's all there is to it. Apple looking good. SPY's looking good. Tesla's looking good. Someone asked me yesterday if they think Tesla can see 1100. I looked at the chart. I'm like, I think it can see 1300. I mean, I just think this is poised to break those highs. And then a few hours later, Rex put something up with like a 1600 price target on Tesla. So I don't know. It all seems crazy because people are worried about the effect of inflation, whatever it is. But I think what we're seeing here is probably people worried about inflation longer term, and cash is trash and they want to be in assets. And even if there's bumps along the way, you want to be in assets longer term. That's my guess as to why the markets are ripping. Okay. So I want to get into some individual stocks. I covered all the big ones. As you can see, by the way, all the Russia plays, USO, UNG, Wheat, all crashing. Deer, Archer Daniels. So it's pretty rough out there, and depending on your entries in some of these, perhaps you may want to take a loss in some of this stuff. Wow, I saved myself on Mosaic yesterday. I sold 75% of my position. Look at this. So um anyway, that's the story. So let's get into some more interesting and exciting stuff up here. Before we get into the obvious ones, right? SMSI, Kodak, we'll talk about all that. I do want to mention Starbucks. This came across my screen somehow. And I've been mentioning I want to get more and more into big caps for various reasons. Look, this is a $100 billion company. And you know what? I believe the story trading method and the four pillars can really, really work well on big caps. And that can present tremendous profit opportunities because what we do at story trading, it's all about timing, right? It's all about capturing these re-rating moments in the market. Why? Because the markets are efficient. So when there's a delta in information, right, a delta of information that causes sentiment to change, for example, then that should cause a rapid re-rating in the market. And we see that all the time. So I think I might try a Starbucks trade here. Why? Let's look at the four pillars. Well, we know fundamentals are pretty good, right? It's not a micro cap. It's a 2% yield, 23 PE. But what happened here? Why did it go down and why is it recovering? Well, it went down because the CEO stepped down over here. That's what this was about. I think there was earnings possibly too, but the CEO stepped down and guess who came back in? The founder, Howard Schultz, is that his name? Schultz, I don't know his first name. Schultz came back in as interim CEO, and that's why it gapped up. Like, that's pretty big news, especially when it comes to sentiment. Any kind of management changes, the founder coming back, and now look what we have. We have the 20 DMA yesterday. Okay, the 20 DMA was support. To me, this is such an easy trade with the sentiment of Schultz back. The 20 DMA now support. This is moving to the 50. That's it. Like, that's the trade. And it's like, why don't I do these big cap trades in the past? Like, I believe the story trading strategy works perfectly for this. So I'm actually going to try. It's gapping open, but I'm going to look at what we have in the market. I may grab some $90 or $91 call options, something like that, expiring this week or next week. And I think this trade might work. And of course, you have the tailwinds of the market behind it. But that's a huge deal. Management changes, 20 DMA break, and those moves from the 20 to 50 or 50 to 200, very easy plays usually. Nothing's 100%. That's why you diversify. So I'm going to try that. I want to mention DPDW because I'd mentioned this in the rooms and it didn't work out for me. Probably I should have kept it. I didn't have patience in my trading account. I wanted access to capital when this didn't work out. But they reported earnings last night, 9 cents EPS. Now, I have not had time to look into it. If there are any one-time items in there, that's not really reflective. But you could do the math. If it is reflective, go do your homework because that's 36 cents annualized. And that's like less than a 2 PE. And they had other good news down here if you scroll down. So I'm not in DPDW now. Even with oil down huge this morning, you can decide for yourself if it's worth a play or not, an earnings play, but that's something to look at if you want an idea. All right, I want to jump into Tilray. I am still all about this trade. I got back in yesterday. I still think this is making a move from the 50 to 200 DMA. The House discussion on the bill to legalize cannabis is tomorrow at 1 p.m. Vote by later this week. It's expected to pass, or most likely will pass, but it probably won't pass the Senate, right? So we all know that. But technically, this was really set up for a move from the 50 to 200. So the sentiment of this coming back to the House floor, and let me just talk about how sentiment works for just 1 second. Again, the fundamentalists might say, well, it's not going to pass the Senate, right? So this is bullshit news. That's not how markets work because people speculate, right? And even if it's not going to pass the Senate, but the fact that it's coming up another time to the House floor shows that there is a movement behind this. There's persistence behind this by the Democrats to try to get this passed, that it's coming up again. So even if it doesn't pass the Senate, it's hope that it'll come again and pass in the future. Sentiment is about predicting and getting ahead of fundamentals longer term. That's what it's about. And that positivity and that excitement about the House floor vote and people speculating about the fundamentals longer term is what can drive the price up this week. Of course, it's risky. Okay. So you manage your size, you manage your risk, and that's how you do it. You diversify. So I am in this. I'm fairly confident that this is going to continue to be a buy the dips thing throughout the week. And you can have your moments to sell it perhaps Wednesday, tomorrow at 1 p.m. when it gets to the subcommittee. And later when there's a vote, you can probably have another pop and another exit opportunity. And that's how we story trade. Okay. Let's go to Kodak. Well, you'll know about Kodak, but last night there was news. You can't really say. Okay, it's gapping up this morning because of. Is it even here? It's not in. There was. Oh, here it is. Okay, Eastman Kodak shares are trading higher after Kennedy Lewis management raises stake in the company from 1 million to 6.3 million shares. And I don't know exactly how they did that. There were no details in those additional transactions because I think they were at like 3 million or so shares as of my presentation Sunday night. So this is moving on that, but still no mention on social media about their move into the EV battery space. So I will be talking about that today on Benzinga at 12:30. So we'll see what happens with Kodak, and you can check Rex's charts to see where he thinks that might go. SMSI, man, I piled into this hard yesterday when we got confirmation that this launch. I got like several hundred $2 call options on this yesterday. And when the stock was at like 330, I got them for like $1.30 and some at $1.35. And now obviously they're going to be opening at like $1.65, $1.70. So already a huge return on those. I only wish I bought more. Okay. So this is another example of, this is another proof that markets are efficient, because when you see events happening, when you see a delta information, you see the rapid re-rating in a stock, which just proves to you, and empirically you can look at evidence in some of the chat rooms. I saw someone said, well, I won't believe it till I see it, right? So that was the bear thesis. A lot of skepticism that this T-Mobile thing would not launch because of all the delays. So when it actually happens, right, that turns the bear thesis on its head and it creates buyers. So that's why I go overweight when the events happen, right? The catalyst hit. I know it's going to turn the sentiment, and I piled in as much as I could. Man, if I had more money available, I would have bought like 1,000 of those call options. I think I bought like 300 or 400. So technically, what are we looking at now? So it looks like it's breaking above the 20 DMA. The resistance levels are, well, I guess about 375 to 380 for today. Is it going to break above that? Now, that'll be interesting. I can't tell you now if it will break above that because, I mean, I don't know. Okay, it's an easy shot from the 20 to the 50. That's like a kind of hard and fast rule. You have a lot of resistance here. The pre-market looks like it wants to go, but I can't tell you if it's going to break 380. So I may actually potentially sell some of my $2 call options around this resistance level, but I'm going to keep a greater core to see what happens after that. So that's what I'm doing with SMSI. Did we talk about Tilray? Yes. Kodak? Yes. CFEI has been a difficult one for me. Gold, yeah, I've been holding on to this one. It's I talked about the geopolitical stuff. Who knows? Oh, there it is, 50 DMA. Might be a good pickup here, but longer term, because I believe yields are going to be negative real yields and possibly only getting worse. A lot of strong resistance support at 175 as well, in addition to this 176.50 support at the 50 DMA. So something to watch there. Let's just look at our news, see if there's anything I missed over here. I know yesterday. Oh, look at this. BRDS. Interesting. Okay. This is interesting because it's a really hated stock that has done terrible. And they just reported they're expanding their e-scooter fleet size in New York City and Washington by more than 20%. Bird said daily average ridership of its e-scooters in New York City increased by nearly 70% in March compared to February. Ooh, that's cool. Put that on watch, guys. You may want to look at BRDS today, okay? And this morning you can see it was 350, now it's at 272. That's a good one, I think, possibly. Okay, so take a look at that. And I think that's all I have for you. Yeah, VTSI, by the way, had the activist note. I don't know. Maybe I'll write a quick blurb and send it to Benzinga to talk about it because it didn't hit the wires. What's going on with that? So, AgFi, I'll be watching is kind of a sympathy play on the cannabis sector, although not as strong as Tilray. And that's it, guys. Let's collaborate in the chat rooms. Thanks for coming. We'll talk.